So, welcome to SoTalk Fall 2021. My name is Sophie and I come from SoCentral, who hosts these SoTalks on different sustainability topics. And SoCentral is a small company with working on big challenges, and we have 9 years of experience on new ways of collaborating to reach the sustainability goals. And we believe that we can only create sustainable shifts for our people and our planet in collaboration. And the 1717 model is one of the ways that we do that. And this fall in SoTalk, we will dive into this 1717 model, which we have strong faith in as a model on how to collaborate across sectors on a large scale to solve complex challenges. And it's a model that has been tested in several places in Norway, and we are now curious to see how other cities can take the model in use. And as always, we want to hear from you guys. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask them in the chat and we'll bring them up at the end of the event. And we are also curious about what you want to learn about in this model. So this is the second of a series of 4, and we would like to set the next topics based on what you want to learn more about. So if you have anything that you think about during this SoTalk that you want to learn more about, then send me an email after the event at sophie@socentral.no, or you can just write it in the chat. And also, if you missed the previous SoTalk, then it's available in our YouTube channel. So we have a lot of speakers today, which is exciting. Our first speaker is Thomas Evanson, CFO of SoCentral, who will present the 1717 methodology. And after hearing from Thomas, we'll move on to Marie Lo Halvorsen, the political advisor for Vice Mayor for Finance, who will present Oslo's ambitious climate and sustainability goals and how the city of Oslo has used the model. And then we'll also hear from Carla Francisca Høyer, who is a student and a citizen, on how she has used infrastructure. And then we'll move on to Ragnhild Olassen, Section Director for Community Development in the district of Bjerke, on how the district has used the infrastructure. And before we open up for your questions, CEO of SoCentral Thomas Beermann will talk about why and how 1717 is designed to mobilize towards a common goal. So as you hear, there's a lot of speakers we'll hear from today, so we're just going to move right on to it. And remember that if you have any questions, please type them in the chat and we'll bring them up at the end of the event. So with no further ado, I'll give the word to you, Thomas Evanson.
My name is Thomas. I've been in charge of documenting the 1717 infrastructure. I'm going to take you through a brief walkthrough of the 1717 infrastructure, hopefully not too brief. Feel free to ask questions both in the chat and afterwards, and we'll try to flesh out the infrastructure if you have any questions afterwards. So the 1717 infrastructure, it is an open methodology for collective action and an effective tools for cities that acknowledge that we need better collaboration to reach the goals of climate and sustainability targets that the city often sets in its strategic documents. Infrastructure, it is designed to give long-term support to people and organizations who wants to create transformative change and making their cities healthier, cleaner, more sustainable, and in line with the SDGs and in line with the city's long-term sustainability strategies. Within the infrastructure, we have some core principles. And while each city that uses the infrastructure must adapt the local initiative to its contexts and to its place and issues, these principles should be followed if you are to use the infrastructure as a whole. So there are 6 core principles. The first one is that you need to align the local initiative with the existing city goals, because making the city's climate and sustainability goals part of infrastructure mandates is key, and it ensures that the activities and the local infrastructure amplify existing goals. it needs to be place-based. We see that we get most or bigger effect when the infrastructure is connected to a geographic area and adapted to local issues surrounding that areas. The infrastructure needs to be open to all people and all organizations, and it needs to have a collective and equal ownership of the infrastructure. All members in the ownership and in the collective and in the local infrastructure should have an equal stake. No one should be more important just because they provide more funding or they provide more manpower. Everyone is equally important. The infrastructure should create an action-oriented and collaborative culture. It is created to provide motion, and it includes a stewardship team that initiate and helps this motion into action. And all knowledge created within and funded through the infrastructure should be open sourced. This leads to better trust and better conditions thereby for collaboration and transformation. So within these principles, we have some building blocks that together creates a local initiative. Again, the local initiative needs to tailor these building blocks to its own context, but basically these 5 building blocks are what's in the core of the local initiative. So the local initiative and the building blocks are, and I'm trying to change slide here. Yeah, we have the formal structure in the middle. That can be as in the form of, in Norway, an association, but it needs to adhere to the local laws and practices. This structure has local infrastructure partners, often in the forms of local businesses and the municipality, organization businesses and stuff like that. And it also has a network of frontrunners. This is the private citizens that wants to help and wants to be part of the initiative to help create the change within the context of the local initiative. This structure has funding, mostly from local infrastructure partners, but can be from other places as well. And the funding is mainly to fund the stewardship team and the activities within the formal structure. And the stewardship team is a team of people that together creates the momentum that continuously work within the formal structure and within the network and the local partners to create projects, to take existing projects and connect them to people and organizations within the network to advance and amplify those projects. The stakeholders and activities are plentiful within the local initiative, and the initiative will mobilize them through a range of activities. And the purpose of these activities is to spur action and create examples that are tangible and that triggers more bigger scale sustainable transformation. Everyone can be a stakeholder, and this is just an example of 12 of them. Everything from entrepreneurs to citizens, universities and students in those universities, municipalities, volunteerism, innovation clusters, and so forth. Everyone can, in some way, contribute to the initiative and be part of the stakeholders of the initiative. And as activities, and local initiatives can have a variety of individual activities, but we see in the existing initiatives that they mostly form within these types of activities. One, they strengthen existing projects. They create impact to the coordination and development and participation of in a portfolio of projects relevant for the goal of initiative, either by actively being part of a project or by coordinating connections between the projects and the network. And the local initiative also can build its own collective experiments and pilots to support local initiative projects and in collaboration with local partners and local stakeholders, create and develop its own projects with its own funding. They also tackle complex thematic challenges through arenas. So in Oslo, we have the arena for better living. We have arenas for better handling of masses from real estate developments. And those arenas are focused around one topic and gathers stakeholders also outside the existing network to create a consortium that aim to increase trust and understanding within this topic. And separate projects can arise from those arenas. And the stewardship also provides sharing and connecting knowledge and resources through activities like webinars, workshops, and stuff like that, with both members of the network, but also the public at large. So to build a local initiative, we see that it's usually set up within 3 phases. You have the exploratory phase that explores, okay, what kind of place do the city want to use this infrastructure to amplify and help create new solutions around? What kind of partnership can we create? Is it possible to achieve funding? Everything that we need in place to walk over to the pilot phase, where we actually create the legal and formal structure. We create a stewardship team, and we create mechanisms that will keep the local initiative in place for several years. And after that, often after a 12-month period, you have the operational phase. This, of course, will change between local initiatives and cities, but we mostly see that these are the phases that a local initiatives go through. So this has been a very brief and very short walkthrough of the infrastructure and its methodology as of now, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
All right, thank you so much, Thomas, for that introduction. We're gonna move straight on to Marie Lo Halvorsen, political advisor for Vice Mayor for Finance. And I'm looking forward to hear your view on the 1717 model. So the word is yours, Maria.
Thank you. Yeah, so I will approach this from a very different direction. I'm thinking about the cities listening that are looking into this, and maybe they might be a bit skeptical. So I'm going to tell how this looked from our perspective as politicians running the city governments from the beginning and what it looks like today. So I've actually been following the 1717 model that we call Pådriv in Oslo since its beginning in 2015. Actually, I met Thomas Berman that you will hear later today on a workshop in 2015. It was a workshop that also the city of Oslo ran on how the city could become more sustainable and how we could collaborate better with organizations and initiatives that wanted to create a more sustainable city. And to my surprise, I ended up at a table with a guy that told us that we're a group of people that actually thought about this already, and we have some ideas, and we want to share those ideas with you. So could we have a meeting? Which was great, because in 2015, the city of Oslo changed city government for the first time in 20 years. So I'm part of a coalition between two left-wing parties and a Green party, and I'm from the Green party. And we had just launched a new platform that was very ambitious. Some of the goals were climate neutral within 2030, reducing car traffic with 20%. But at the same time, as these environmental goals, we also have very ambitious social goals, like cheaper kindergarten, cheaper after-school activities that you have after school for the kids, and also focusing more on social housing. So we had some big challenges, and we knew that we couldn't do this alone. And then we're meeting this group that's saying that basically we just want to contribute. We have the same goals as you and we want to contribute, so how can we help you? And that sounds perfect, but it has actually created a lot of frustration, I think, both on our part and on Pådriv's part. And I'll tell you a bit about that. I think the way that Podriv works and the 1717 model works is that it really challenges how a city collaborates with actors outside of the city. Because as a city government, what we're used to is to, for example, we have a property owner with all the lawyers, they're presenting a new zoning plan, they want to build a new building, and we can either approve or not approve through the city council. There's a very normal way to collaborate with someone outside of the city. Or we're, for example, procuring a service or a good, but we've already defined what we're procuring and we have a bid. Or we could have a protest group demanding that we stop a project, or they're demanding that we're starting something, but it's a protest group that's just telling us what they demand. So that's the kind of, you can't really call it collaboration, but the kind of interaction that we're very used to, and we have good systems for handling it. But here we were presented with a group of people that just wanted to spar with us. They had some ideas. They wanted to develop it together with us. They wanted to have an actual collaboration where there are two parts and there's no part that's actually leading the process, but we're collaborating. And it's a process between partners. So that was very different, and it's challenged both us as politicians and also the whole administration. Because how do you do that? Should we have a bid? But they don't really need the money, and they don't have a plan that we can accept or not accept. So I think that through this sparring, trying to figure out how we can work together, having a lot of meetings, challenging Podriv back, telling them how the city government works, how you can influence us, it's created a more open and flexible city government and administration, and they found all these different tools and ways to get into the work that we do in the city. And I think it's also changed how Podriv has been organized and contributed to the development of the 1717 model that we see today. And I've been working for the city government for 6 years now, and I think that's when I'm done working for the government, this is one of the things that I will be most proud of, just because I think that we've actually created a better city as well, that's much more open for these kind of initiatives. And I think that what makes me really proud of this is that I feel that in this network we're going back to what democracy really is. It's about people. And here we meet people, individuals, that have a willingness to take a risk, and they have a willingness to do something. They have some goals, and those goals can be different from the organizations or companies that they represent. And by going back to the basics and talking together as people, not as politicians or company owners, with our common goals, we can develop new solutions. And but going back to that route, we create different ways of collaborating and different kind of networks that actually drive us forward. And through that focus on people and a network, the city and the companies and the organizations we represent, they just have to follow because we're moving so fast. So it's a very different way to work together. And I think that you'll see some of the example that's come out of the city collaboration here in Oslo. We're collaborating now on very different levels, both very locally and with kind of the top government in Oslo. And it's also very interesting to see that this model is actually working not just because of the people that started it here, but the model is working and spreading to other cities because it shows that it doesn't depend on the people, that it depends, it's a way of working that's important. And now it's also spread to Mauritius. That's really cool. It shows that it can be adapted to different societies. So I'm really proud of having been a small part of this for all these years. It's changed me, and I think I hope that I've also changed Podriv, and I look forward to following in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. And I really enjoy that you bring up democracy and that Podriv really is an initiative led by people. And now we'll hear from one of those people, Carla Francisca Heyer, who is a student and a citizen, and we'll hear how you use Podriv or the 1717 model. So I'll give the screen over to you. And remember that if you have any questions to anyone that you hear speak, please write them in the chat and we'll bring them up later on.
Thanks, Maria, for very interesting words. I think I'm gonna, I have some of the same message to bring forward through my experience with Pådriv, or this 1717 model. So I'm Carla, I'm a master's student in urban agriculture. And since this spring, I was looking for an internship as part of my studies. And my professor suggested Pådriv to me because Pådriv is connected to my university, NMBU, through a bærekraftsarena. It's an initiative called Green and Smart Cities. And also they're actually developing a new master program together at the moment, but that's another exciting story. So I checked out Pådriv and I was triggered by the possibility to participate more actively in the development of green spaces in Oslo. So I volunteered as a Pådriver and I signed up for this internship. And I was assigned to a project that started in 2019 and that was exploring possibilities for urban agriculture close to a church, Østeraker kirke. And this was a piece of land that is a part of Hovinbyen and part of the green ring surrounding Hovinbyen. And it was a piece of land that was kind of forgotten, overgrown. And the church reached out to Pådriv and said, hey, we have this piece of land. We see so much potential here. We should do something nice with it. So Pådriv hosted a workshop, an open workshop, together with the city of Oslo and locals and everyone who wanted to join. And they discussed different ideas for this area. And one of the ideas were urban agriculture or some kind of activity with cultivation. And some of the guidelines were the local needs and this a social approach. So we didn't want to have like an allotment garden where everyone has their own private square meters. We want to have something that gives space and room for everyone. And before I say anything more, I just want to show you some pictures so that you know what I'm actually talking about. Because I'm not expecting everyone to know Ulvenhagen yet. So you can check out this video online, but just to give you an idea of what happened this summer, I was working together with around 60 teenagers from 4 different districts in Oslo, bydel Bjerke, Alna, Grorud, og Stovner. And we planted a lot of things. Around 70 berry bushes. We had a science project with roses, trying out different fertilizers. And we planted a lot of fruit trees, 35 apple trees, and also other fruit trees. And it was all driven by the teenagers in this cool project that the city of Oslo has, where the city of Oslo pays these teenagers the wages so they can work like 2 or 3 weeks during summer. So that was fun. And let me see if I can move on here. Yes, just to give you an impression. We're in the middle of Oslo, surrounded by very heavy infrastructure and yeah, big roads and industry. We had these waffle Fridays. This wouldn't have happened if I wasn't if someone from Pådriv didn't connect me to someone. And a lot of that happened during spring and summer, and a lot of these connections that were super important. I'm gonna tell you more about that. So we started without any single shovel, and we ended up with actually a very nice garden and a lot of engagement, and we had a great time. These teenagers are still working in the garden and maintaining it, so that's very nice. And to be just on point now, how did we get there? Well, there was this room full of people when I came into this project in the spring. And I think that's what made the whole process go so smoothly, because we had very little time to fix the legal stuff and to raise the money, just a few months. And I think the reason that it worked out was this infrastructure for collaboration that was Pådriv, or the 1717 model. So any time that I had a problem, I could just call out into this room full of people, and someone would help me. I could just ask, okay, how can I fix this? Who do I need to contact? And someone would always know someone at the right department in the city of Oslo, or just someone who knew something, and we would find out. So I think this is what Maria also talked about, that it was a network of, or it is a network of positive and also active people that you can just reach out to. And even though we don't find out maybe what we wanted to find out, we always, we come one step further on the way. And it's people who say, okay, maybe we cannot fix this, but what can we do? What do we have, and what can we do with that? So I use Slack a lot as a tool. I don't know if you're all familiar with that, but it's a communication platform, and it was divided in different projects from the 1717 model, and one of them were Ulvenhagen. So I could just write in there, and whenever I had a question, and around 200 other people, pådrivere, would be able to see it and could reach out. So that's what led me through the bureaucratic jungle in like no time. And that's what made a lot of things possible. So I think this is a very good example of a bottom-up initiative that was enabled by the top-down strategies from the city of Oslo, because we were all in the same room from a very early stage in the project. So yeah, we could adjust to each other, and we were on the same team from day one, and we were able to have a smooth collaboration. And I think that's very quickly in 10 minutes what I wanted to say. And if anyone has questions or comments, please reach out.
Thank you so much, Carla, for an inspiring introduction to how you actually use the model, and for really good examples as well. So we will now move on to Ragnhild Olassen, Sector Director for Community Development in the district of Bjerke, on how the district has used the infrastructure. So I will hand over the screen to you, Ragnhild.
Thank you for inviting me. My name is Ragnhild, and I work with the city district of Bjerke, which is the local political and administration level of the municipality of Oslo. As Maria mentioned, there are 2 levels in Oslo. So I work on the local level, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we work with community and city development as a part of the municipality, and also how we work in a partnership with Pådriv. Traditionally, just to start, traditionally the local level of the municipality has a mandate to deliver social services and welfare services to the people, and is not normally that much engaged, or has normally a city district doesn't have too much resources to work with community development, but now we are trying to develop that role in the municipality and on the local level. So when we try to develop how the local district can work with community development and city development, We in Bjerke have tried to categorize the type of local areas we have in the district, so that we can adjust our supporting system and our methods towards how the local areas are designed, what are the social structures, what kind of area is this. So we have divided in 3 categories. We have first is we have established areas where there are houses and there's not going to be more development in the sense of building new housing structures or office buildings. So, but we also have the transformational areas that are going to change a lot during the next 10, 25 years. So, but first we have in the established areas, we have some areas that are quite well functioning in the sense that there's a stable population, high level of income, strong social structures. The local community is more or less functioning as on its own, and the need for a support system from the municipality is not that strong actually. So we have quite a reactive role. We respond if local NGOs needs some support or something, funding, whatever, but we are not very active trying to develop the local community. And then we have another category which are still established areas, but that are not functioning that well in the sense we see, for example, on the social and demographic indicators, they are much more challenging areas when it comes to there's lower level of average income, high level of unemployment, high percentage of immigrants with short time living in Norway, large families living in small flats, and also you can see on the outside the physical structures are not that well often. Yeah. So our approach in those communities, in those areas, we have this, which is called the Area Boost Program, Områdeløft, where we go actively in working together with the local population, with the local NGOs, creating goals and aims and strategies and indicators for social and physical and organizational development. So that's quite another approach than in the more well-functioning areas. And then we have the transformational areas, which are quite many in our district actually. Bjerke, or district of Bjerke, is a district in quite huge transformation. So we're going to have a much higher population in the next 10 years because there's a lot of new housing being built all around. In these areas, we also are trying to develop, we want as a city district to be more proactive also in these areas. So the way we are proactive here is quite different because there's no one living here in these areas now. So we have to work proactively with other partners, with other actors, trying to assure that these areas will be good local communities in the future. So the partnership model is what we're trying to use in this, and we're developing that now together with Pådriv, among others. Here's just an image of all the different types of communities clung together. So as a city district, our role in city and community development is, as I mentioned, it's quite a new role. We're trying to fill a role that no one has given us. There's no mandate taking that role, actually. So we're trying to take a role that we have and have not been giving. So we are now building up a department in our organization for city and community development, and trying to claiming a more central role in city development processes, which the districts has not had so much before. We are working closely with inhabitants, NGOs, real estate owners, business sector, public sector on a local level, and developing methodology and practices for how a municipality can be in dialogue with the local actors, finding local resources and co-create together with local institutions. And we are also humbly trying to improve the way that the municipality of Oslo as a whole work with city and community development, because it's a huge organization and, as I said, a two-level managing structure and political structure. And we see that there's a lot of potential to improve how the municipality can work together with ourselves, and also improve how we work together with the external organizations and stakeholders. So some of the things that we've done together with Pådriv is creating a cooperation model for temporary community center in these transformational areas, where we have together approached the real estate owners that have empty office buildings, which they cannot rent on the normal market because no one wants to. It says now my internet connection is unstable. I hope it's not affecting the. Can you still hear me?
It's okay now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So we have this. I think at least some of the Norwegians might have heard of Vollebekk Fabrikker, which is a community center in a transformation area called Vollebekk, where we have like a two-level aim on the short term and very local level, or within the house, between the walls level. It's the aim is to develop a meeting place, a community house where social entrepreneurs, retail, redesign, green businesses, NGOs, local women's group, whatever, can work together, create an ecosystem of a network of working together and working out new solutions for sustainable city development. But also on the more long term and a little bit zooming out scale, it's also about influencing the real estate owners and developers to focus more on social indicators, social sustainability, green ecological sustainability in their development project. And now, as I said, it's temporary, and that's the whole idea. And now Vollebekk Fabrikker is soon being closed down, and we are continuing with this method and this partnership model in another area in Oslo, in our district, Linderud, where we are adopting many of the experiences that we have from Vollebekk and continue developing them in a new area. So why we partnership with Pådriv? First of all, I would say that it's necessary. We need this kind of movement working with sustainable transformation of the capital of Norway. Is totally necessary to work cross-sectoral. We need the platform, we need the arena to work together to be a joint force in creating a sustainable development in Oslo. So we are partners in Pådriv also because we want Pådriv to exist. We want to support the existence of such an organization. But also we see that it's in our cooperation in these cases, for example, that I mentioned, we see that meeting with real estate developers, which you could say represent big capital. They have their values on the internet and everything, but still their main aim is to sell flats, gain money and move on. And we see that it's important, it's good to be more partners in the partnership, focusing on the collective goals, on the more idealistical goals, to say it like that, focusing on social and ecological sustainability. So when we meet the partners, the real estate partners, we see that it's good to be more kjøttvekt, as we say in Norwegian. We need to be more, when 2 out of 3 partners in a partnership focus on the sustainability and really mean it, it's more, yeah, it's better. And we also really much approve of being part of the network and the arena for that Pådriv is. We work with, we as professionals in the local city district, we need also to engage in discussion with professionals from other sectors and also the academic sector. And as Marie also mentioned, it's people and not organizations necessarily working together. And I think it's developing the whole fagfelt, the whole theme of city development, when we get to work together and discuss without having necessarily the strict bureaucratic structures around us. And we also want to contribute with our experiences and methods for community development and city involvement that we have from the Area Boost program. So to end, for the future, we hope to further develop this triangular model or this partnership model in transformational areas, where temporary activation and this kind of community houses or other types of temporary activation can be a method to boost or to get a good start of the development in transformational areas. And we hope also that we can make it a standard, more or less, for a more proactive municipal engagement in the planning and developing of new areas in Oslo, so that it's not only in our own city district, but that this can be something that we can see all over Oslo and the world. Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ragnhild, and I look forward to the little conversation we'll have after our final speaker, who is the CEO of SoCentral, Thomas Behrmann, and he'll now briefly tell us how the 1717 model is designed to mobilize towards a common goal. So I'll give the screen to you, Thomas, and after you've heard from him, we'll all gather again and take up all the questions you've asked in the chat.
Good to see everyone. A lot of friendly and known faces, some new ones, which is great. As Marie said, I'm Thomas. I have been part of this Pådriv and 1717 infrastructure development since its early start. But I think it's important just to note that this is not something that we have done at SoCentral alone. This has been a collaborative effort from day one. It started as a research project with 25 people from all over Oslo coming together and thinking, how do we change the city in a new way? What is lacking if we are to increase the speed of sustainable city development? And since then, in 2015, the need for speed has increased. I think all of us here are quite engaged in how do we create change, how do we transform our society in the direction we need. And the COP that is starting now, it looks like it's up to us. It looks like it's up to us as individuals, as people, to come together. And I'm really glad to see that there are so many people that are really wanting to do something. So I'll just dive a little bit into some of the aspects that we were sort of focusing on today, which you've heard from Maria and Carla and Ragnhild, which is really about how does this infrastructure both combine this bottom-up and this top-down approach. So I'll just share a few slides. I can also say that as Marian mentioned, this infrastructure has not only proved to work in Norway, in the Norwegian context, but I was also been part of setting this up in Mauritius early this year. What is interesting is to see how this infrastructure and this methodology is developing the more people we get on board. And I think that's also something I just want to point out today is this is very much still in development. There is now a part of the infrastructure of methodology which we know works, but there's still a lot of development to be done. And that is why we're so open. I want really to engage more citizens, more cities in using this so we can together really create something that can have impact. The infrastructure and the methodology is open source, as Thomas said. So this is not something that someone is trying to sell, and you can't really buy it. You can only build it and use it. So why do we need bottom-up initiatives? I know several of you here today have been working on this and working on it every day. I think there's a few reasons why we need it. One is I think it's extremely important in times we're in. And it always has been. Change happens when people come together and propose something new and does something new. I think we are slightly depending too much on our institutions, and maybe we've forgotten a bit that the change and how we want society to be is up to us as individuals, and that is why we need to always look for these bottom-up initiatives. What is happening out there? Who's trying to do something new? Who's trying to change their neighborhoods, the local community in a better way? And I think this is what will save us. This is what will actually help transform society. And then, the 1717 infrastructure or the methodology around it, it is designed purposely to try to support those kind of initiatives. So there's been three things that has been designed into the methodology that really tries to leverage all the people who wants to do something. And that is, one, always has a focus on a geographical space. So this is picked from the place-based approach for those who are interested in methods, nothing that we came up with. It is really about, if you focus on a geographical space, then people care. People care about the neighborhood. They care about what's happening around their work. They care about the road that their kids are taking to school. They care about how their parents or grandparents are living. So as soon as you become concrete on something, people will start to want to do something. And also what we've seen through these, the 5 years of using this infrastructure is when you are concrete on the street or a building or a community, then people start to collaborate. I think we as people, we want to find solutions together if we can. But if we keep talking about sustainability and we had city transformation, then it's only people like us who show up to the meetings. And that's, I think, is a really key aspect. Another thing we've done in infrastructure is we kept it open. So everyone can be part of it. If you want to contribute, if you're curious, you just sign up, you come to a meeting and you say, I want to be part of it. And then you're included as an individual, as a citizens, in one of the 200 people that we've gathered in Oslo, which Carla mentioned briefly. Another way is that since it is open for everyone, also for those who are not engaging, so everyone can use it. That's why we call it an infrastructure. It is not only for those who sign up. This is for society. So any initiative within the geographical space that the city has focused on can approach the stewardship team and ask for something. And then that stewardship team will try to connect that person or that initiative with others in the network who might be able to help. So this is really about also leveraging the playing field. And to Maria's point about the democracy, there has also been a lot of talk that this is also a democratic tool. It's a way of leveraging the network, even if you don't have the network. So there's a lot of people who want to do things, but don't, they're not gone to the right school, they're not in the right circle, so they don't have all the connections. Well, here you will get the connections, even if you don't have it yourselves. And so far, Pådriv in Oslo, I think many people see it as this bottom-up initiative. It's about how to get involvement, how to get people engaged, and it is actually that. But it is also something else. It is also a way to take the strategies and goals that a city has set, and how do we then actually implement those? How do we create action around those goals? And this is maybe the part of the infrastructure that hasn't been, we haven't been able to focus enough on, or at least communicate on, but this is really core to the methodology. So it's really, both bottom up and top down at the same time. And this is what when we started this as a research project, what we found was missing. How do you combine these things? So what we've done in the methodology here is we said that if you are to build this in your city, it has to be aligned with the city goals. So the democratic goals that are set in the city on climate and sustainability, you don't choose your own goals, you work on behalf of everyone. This makes it a lot easier for the city to get engaged, obviously, but also to make sure that we are pulling in the right direction. There's a lot of initiatives that are very interesting and very good, but they're not necessarily helping us moving forward. Another thing we've done is to create this partnership. So a local initiative having the infrastructure in the city, the infrastructure is actually owned by everyone. So that's something we're still sort of trying to get our head around, because we have a tendency of saying, I collaborate with Pådriv. But actually, we are using Pådriv. We are using it as infrastructure, which some of us have come together and said, let's build this infrastructure, let's support it. In Oslo, there's 44 organizations who said we want this infrastructure to exist, and then everyone can use it. So this co-ownership, it also helps the city in having somewhere to go to implement their strategies. Because there's a lot of the strategies, as Marie said, that the city itself cannot implement. It has to be done by someone else. And today, for the kind of solution change that can't be procured by the city or can't be done by the city itself, but has to be done by civil society, by private sector, non-profit sector. Well, basic tool the city has so far is to communicate, this is what we want to do. And then just hope that people listen. By having this infrastructure, the city can actually engage on a daily basis and keep telling, this is what we're trying to do. How can we support? How can we what do you need to be, to create change? And what we've seen then is when people know about the targets, they start aligning. So I think this is a really core aspect, that having this tool for alignment of city goals and strategies is really key. And this is a point that we try to communicate when I work as a stewardship team in Pådriv, is the city is really good at setting strategies. There's so many good strategies there, but then we have to act on them. And that's something we can do together on this infrastructure. The last point when it comes to top down is that this infrastructure is built and designed to last. So this is not a short-term project. It's not something there that's for, for 2 years or 3 years. It's going to be the long term if the society wants it. And this helps the top-down approach, because you can trust that this infrastructure is going to be there also next year, which means that you can start planning it into your action plans on how you're going to fulfill the strategies. So for instance, I know that City of Oslo now is considering to implement this infrastructure as a tool to reach a new strategy they're putting out, because they know it's going to be the next year. And then I think we have something that can really help us in creating transformation. I think I'll leave it at that for now, and open for a little panel.
Thank you so much, Thomas, and thank you for showing us how you can use the infrastructure. So now comes one of my favorite parts of the SoTalk, is when I get all of you speakers back on the screen to talk to you just a little bit more. So we have gotten a few questions in the chat, and I'll ask them up, and then whoever wants to answer, just unmute yourself and feel free to add comments to other people's answer. So my first question goes mainly for, well, Ragnhild, Maria and Carla, on how Pådriv, or the 1717 model, has changed the way the district and the city of Oslo works with complex challenges. So perhaps mainly for you, Ragnhild and Maria. Would you like to comment on it?
Okay, I can start. I have to think while I speak. Well, it's more or less what I was saying. It's about oh shit. I need the cable. Sorry, Maria, you have to.
No power.
I thought I would have more time to think. Well, just first, this is not a revolution. It's not like everyone in the city government is just totally working differently now. And I don't think everyone's heard about Pådriv either, but I've heard about some of the initiatives that are relevant for their sector. But I think that the continuous challenging of people in the administration has changed those people. So a lot of people have met these initiatives either through Pådriv or just that one initiative, and just that you've become very good at challenging, and you know which buttons to push. And if you do that over time with the same people, they start to think differently. So there's no way to say that, oh, the structure is different, we work differently. There's not been a decision to do things differently, but I see that people have more open doors now. It's easier to access the people, and they have lower shoulders on just having a chat with someone that have a good idea. So I think that's what we see, where we see the change, not in the structure in the city government.
If I can just also add there, I know that I don't know what's it called in English, Klimaetaten, so the climate.
The climate department or something?
Yeah. Let's call it that. So they actually is the part of Oslo that started sort of challenging how to use the infrastructure in new ways. So what they actually did was that they had a task that they were given, and that was, how do we create, or how do we reduce CO2 when it comes to moving stones and dirt around in the city when you do buildings. And they were sort of thinking about that, and at the same time there were some ideas in the network of this is something we need to do. It is really stupid that we keep digging things up, driving it far out of town, and the next day someone else drives something new stuff into the town. What they chose to do, instead of creating an arena themselves, they said, okay, let's do this through the infrastructure. Let's use the infrastructure and then support infrastructure to gather all the people around. So they said, okay, can you do this? Can we use the infrastructure for this? And the reason they did that, and that is, I think also they can tell us more about this at a later stage, is they felt when the city goes out to all the stakeholders and say, what do you need? Everyone points at the city and say, you need to do this. No, you need to do this and this and this. But once it was taken out and put on this common infrastructure, what happened was that people started, so what do we do together? Because it was not sort of the city asking or city inviting in. And that has actually now led to 2 new pilot projects. I know Michelle is here, has been leading one of them. And it's a really collaborative project. So it's co-created from day one on how do we create some change in these fields. So I think this, and what they've also said, I think they've used maybe over the 2 or 3 years, they used a few 100,000 Norwegian kroners to support the arena. And then also other stakeholders have come together and put money into it. They also got the co-funding part in. So they actually reduce their costs and getting something else. And I'm not saying this is like a solution for everything, but I think for these complex challenges where the city does not have the solution or the whole solution themselves, I think this kind of infrastructure is really, really valuable and efficient, and creates this mindset shift that we have to fix this together.
I might just add rapidly, you've said most of it, but I think also that as a municipality, it's quite uncomfortable, or we are very comfortable working within our own office, within our own line of direction, and being like not forced, but invited to go out of our office and work across, not just cross-sectoral with private and academic and NGO sector, but also within our own municipality, which is quite a silo organized organization. We get like the opportunity to talk with, I can talk with someone in Department of Finance without having to go through all my leaders and up and asking for some decision in some process. But it's we take the discussion out of our offices and out of our bureaucratic lines, and I think that's really enriching how we as a municipality is working with development.
Yeah, and that brings me a little bit to my next question. Thomas, you just mentioned how this co-funding spreads or reduce the costs. Do any of you have any reflections on how the infrastructure can spread risks and costs and then be beneficial for the city and the district? Perhaps you first, Marie?
It's a very good question. And I'm actually not sure if I can answer that, but when you said risk, I wanted to say something about risk, because as Ragnhild said, it's not very comfortable for a government, either for politicians or for the administration, to get involved in something where you don't really know where you're heading and you're not leading it yourself. And I think especially for a bureaucracy, avoiding risk has always been very important, because in the end, if you fail in a project, it's gonna be a problem for the politicians at the top, and you're gonna get all the media attention, and you're just responsible for not taking risk and making sure that projects don't fail. But here you're getting into a collaboration that could end up in something great. You don't know what exactly, but it could be great, but it could also fail. And just working with that risk and seeing that what we could get out of it is worth taking the risk is really important. And I think, I don't know if you've seen it, Ragnhild, but I think we've been able, from kind of the top government, to communicate that we want people in the whole city's administration to take more risk. And I think that Podrev has been part of that mind shift. But it wasn't an answer to your question, sorry. Maybe, Ragnhild, maybe you can help me.
I think we can just look upon the two cases I mentioned with Vollebekk Fabrikker and Startblokka, which are quite, for the municipality, they are quite cheap, cheap, definitely not cheap. But the value that has been created there is enormous, both also economically. And working in this way, we have managed to get the OBOS and Aspelin Ram and Storosla Eiendom, the real estate owners, to put their effort and resources into it, and we've helped them look upon this kind of temporary projects as a way of reaching their aim, which is at the end of the day selling flats and earning money. And we see that they also see this as a win-win way of working. And the temporal, being temporal, it also it's not that dangerous. We can just play along for a few years, and it's not decided that we have to do this for a very long time. So we see now, for example, in Linderud Startblokka, that the municipality or the city of Bjerke, city district of Bjerke, many of the social services now are relocating their services out to from Ulven, for those who are living in Oslo, where we have the administration now, where there's no people living, only a construction area, but there's the administration of the district. So they are moving many of the services up to Linderud, where all the people is living. So it's also, and we can do that without making great decisions for a very long term, but just try to see how it works.
Thomas?
Yeah, and I'll also point out that the collaborative nature of the infrastructure and of Pådriv Oslo reduces the political risk as well, as the network itself is non-political and supported both by all parts of society. So the risk itself on a political level is reduced by the neutrality of the network itself.
Good point. Thank you. You both answered, all three of you answered the question. And we have a question from Andrea on, he's wondering what the speakers currently see as barriers for people to get engaged in civil society. Are you worried about who gets represented when it relies on available time? Perhaps, Carla, you have some thoughts on this. You briefly mentioned it in your presentation.
Yes, for the project Ulvenhagen, that was one of the most difficult aspects, how to get in touch with the civil society, like the local people living in the area. And the approach was to join in on different housing association meetings, and just present the idea that, hey, we want to start something here, maybe a garden or something, who wants to join. But it's not so easy to get people on board on ideas when they don't really know what they're joining. We ended up making, instead of a board for the association, we made an interimstyre, which is more of this like a short time, you just said it, midlertidig, like a short time board. It was easier to get on board with that than something that is commitment for a very long time, also for private people. So, and then we had many rounds of open meetings, and maybe not the first time we got so many people engaged, but maybe the second time or after we started something, because when you have started something that is a concept, it's easier for people to join in on that and to evolve that further.
Can I just add something?
Just elaborate a bit. Oh, sorry, Thomas first.
No, you first, Maria.
Okay, thanks. I think it's always a challenge to make sure that kind of the right people are heard, and we see that always, even in elections. You know, it's not everyone that actually goes voting, and I think Pådriv could have ended up as a network of very resourceful people that get access to the city government, to the politicians directly. You know, they get. And it with less transparency than through the normal processes, it could have ended up like that. And I think that what we have worked on in the city, in the government, with the administration, is to try to make sure that decisions are always made in a transparent way. So there's no direct access to being able to influence decisions through the network. And that's I mean, maybe some of the times that you've been challenged back from us is where we've had to make sure that you're not influencing us in another way than others are able to. So that's, sorry, my cat is also trying to be a part of this. So that's also a part of the involvement, making sure that you have a good initiative. That's great, but we also have to make sure that you don't get access to ways to influence us that others don't. So I just wanted to say that as well. Thomas.
And just to cut in, there was a question about language from Øystein.
Yeah.
It might be what you're thinking of now, Thomas.
Yeah, because it's a bit combined to this. So I think there's a few things there. So one, I think involving people who doesn't normally get involved is an ongoing process. You know, it's nothing that we can say that now we've done it. But what we have found out is like through Voldebæk Fabrikker, through what Kara is doing, through things youth project we're doing at Learn. You know, if you concrete on the place, and you don't need to talk about the infrastructure. So this also may be clear. Now we have a webinar on the infrastructure. But it's like a railroad. You don't care about how it's built. When you're just going to use it. That's the important part. And the same is for Podriv. You know, it's not about the infrastructure. That's a few people who had to figure it out. But for everyone else, it's about using it. So we don't talk about sustainability. We talk about how do you get a better environment? How do you get a better neighborhood? And then involve people and invite people into these kind of initiatives. And this is what Carla has done so well, but also Ragnhild, and we keep pushing for that, is to think about, okay, who else should we invite? And that is why we've been so, you know, it's been so important for us to have a partnership that is, you know, quite cross-sectoral. So we have the church involved, we have the local football team involved, we have, you know, so many organizations that is not normally linked to city sustainable development, just because the question that came from Øystein is we got to get rid of the sustainable club of people doing stuff, because that's not where it's happening. But people, when you talk to them, they are really, really engaged in creating a better society for themselves, for their kids, for the neighbors. And some call it sustainability, some don't care about those words, but they do the same stuff. And that is why this being concrete on place, having a broad partnership, broad set of people involved, so we don't sort of just go in a bubble and talk to the same people all the time, is really, really core for making this infrastructure work.
Yes. Last comment, Ragnhild.
Yes, I agree that the two questions go together, the participation barrier and the language. And I think that we have a motto in Bjerke. We say we follow the energy in the community. So it's about who's setting the agenda, and is the agenda local community development and sustainability, or for a group of people in our community, it might be they want a park where they can go with the dogs, so the dogs can run freely and not do their necessities in the street. And that's the local energy. So, okay, we didn't think that making a hundepark, a dog park, is a part of the sustainable goals of local community, but we go with that energy and we back up the local group trying to get that park. And then we created civil, how do you say, citizenship, yeah, for example.
Important point, and we will leave it at that because our time is up. But I just want to say thank you to all of the speakers for really inspiring talks and letting us know even more how this infrastructure works on the ground. And the next SoTalk is November 18th at the same time as today, so 9 in the morning here in Norway. If you have any wishes to what we want to talk about, perhaps there's something you want to learn more about, then please let us know, and we will send you information about the next talk. So thank you to all the speakers and to all of your participants and your questions, and have a lovely Thursday.